Hello everybody, my name is Andrew, and today I would like to discuss with you a means of saving money which you may not have considered in the past, and that is saving copper pennies. When I say copper pennies, I mean pennies that are actually 95% copper, which would be pennies that have been minted in 1981 or earlier in the United States. In 1982, the composition of the penny was changed from 95% copper to only 2.5% copper, which is a copper jacket that surrounds a zinc core. And so the modern penny actually contains very little copper. But if you get one of those pennies from 1981 or earlier, there's actually more than a cent worth of copper in there. Currently, I believe it's about 2.1 cents worth of copper for every penny that you collect. So it's a good way to grab up some copper at a cheap price, and it's a safe way to save money for a number of reasons. You actually do have some valuable metal in your coins with copper pennies, so in the event of, say, inflation, the value of the copper in your pennies will increase to compensate for the loss of the purchasing power of the dollar that the penny represents on its face value. And of course, if there is deflation in the economy rather than inflation, you are protected in your investment because the penny will always be worth at least a penny because it has that face value. So even if the value of copper drops to zero, you're not going to really lose a whole lot. You'll lose, the copper value, but you'll be able to maintain value with your money because it does have a face value and it is legal tender. So you're safe in inflation and deflation. Another thing you're safe against is a bank run or a bank problem, because you will actually be saving your money outside of the bank in a physical form in boxes of pennies. This is one way you can get pennies from the bank, these $25 boxes, and what those have is 50 rolls of pennies, each one with 50 pennies each, and you can get these from the bank. And usually what you want to look for is circulated pennies. You want to get pennies that are not fresh from the mint, because those will all be zinc. You want to get some that have been circulated so that there's a mixture of pennies from all years in there. And what I do is I'll go and get these $25 boxes of pennies. I'll open up all the rolls. I'll sort through them myself. It's a pretty quick process. You can just look at the date, throw them into piles. And I save all of the 1981 and earlier pennies. The 1982 pennies, some of them are copper and some of them are zinc. The only way to really easily tell which is to weigh them, and that's kind of a lengthy process. A copper penny weighs 3.1 grams, and a zinc penny weighs 2.5 grams. So if you want to separate those out, you can. I tend to just throw the 1982 pennies out because I don't think it's worth the trouble of sorting through those. And then I also save any wheat pennies or foreign coins or anything like that I find while I'm sorting through the pennies. And the ones that are zinc, I generally just throw those into a big bag, and I'll take those back to the bank at some point. There's a credit union where I live that will count change for you for free and cash it out for you. So I'll just go in there with a big bag of pennies every now and then, and I can cash that out and don't have to bother counting it or anything. If you want an estimate before you bring it into the bank, just to make sure you're getting the right amount, you can weigh it and kind of figure out how many pennies are in there based on that, at least a rough number. And then what I do with the copper pennies is I re-roll them and I put them back in these boxes, and then you can just stack these boxes up. It's a convenient way to store them. You know exactly how much is in one of these boxes. There's $25 face value, so 50 rolls. Currently, like I said, copper is more valuable. The copper in the pennies is actually more valuable than the face value. So a box of it like this is $25 face value of pennies, but this is about $50 worth of copper. And it really doesn't take up that much space, you can see. You can stack these pretty nicely, and they don't take up a whole lot of room. So if you've got like a big safe or something like that, you can stack them up in there. But even if you can't put them in a safe, it's a relatively safe way to keep your money at home, because as you can see, this box is kind of heavy. So it's going to be tough for anybody robbing your home to make off with a whole lot of money in the form of pennies. I mean, they might grab a box or two, but that's even 2 boxes, only $50 face value. So you're relatively safe against that. And of course, in the event of a fire or something like that, If you had paper money at home, that might burn up, but the copper, I mean, I guess the worst thing that could happen to that is it could melt, but it would still be there. You'd still have a big glob of copper, which is valuable in and of itself. So pretty safe way to store your money. I did mention that you could find some other things in those pennies other than 1981 and earlier copper pennies, and then the zinc pennies. If you look, you sometimes will also find foreign coins. You find a lot of wheat pennies, which are from 1958 and earlier. Those have a wheat on the back of the coin. I set those aside separately as well. Some people collect those. I just kind of fill jars with them. And then on rare occasions, you may find an Indian head penny. That's definitely something you want to set aside. That is from, I believe, 1908 or earlier, and that is a totally different penny design. No Abraham Lincoln on there. And that probably has some collectible value, so you might want to set that aside separately. But something I do, I collect copper pennies. I think it's a great way to save money. It protects you against inflation. You're safe in the event of deflation. And it can be a fun hobby, too. You can find some neat stuff in there, some rare pennies on occasion, which is always exciting to find something like that in a batch. But that's my 2 cents on collecting pennies. You guys have a great day. And comment below, please.